Hi, all. Here I am. I'm live, and hopefully you're focused. When I was thinking about today's podcast, I realized that if I were a writer, AccuLife and AccuWeight would be the core of most of the films that I would be working on. Temptation is incredibly powerful. One of the things I noticed a long time ago is that pretty much everything has some sort of drive or temptation behind it. And that temptation is incredibly powerful. In many situations, it controls our lives. One of the other things that I found, and it's throughout the universe, and I notice it very, very often with regard to the structure of our program. And that is, although we don't know 100%, almost everything has a neutralization or an antidote. Now, I'd like to start off today by telling you something that maybe you know and maybe you don't know, but it should open your eyes and your brain to thinking. Our goal here on this podcast is to help us achieve our personal goal. Each and every one of you has said, I want to weigh less. And I have said to you that I thought it was incredibly important that you accept that by thinking it through. Now, temptation is going to be there. Losing weight is going to be there. Temptation is the antithesis of weight loss. And the reason it is, in order to lose weight, you commit yourself to changing your behavior. It's as simple as that. What people seem not to understand is that all food cravings have inherently in them the cause of all disease and illness. Hear that? All of your cravings have, as part of the structure of your cravings, the exact same issues as all illness and disease. And what is that? I call it imbalance. And one of the reasons that I'm so enamored with AccuWeight and AccuLife is that as part of the structure of the program is this initial phase of cleansing and detoxifying. One of these days, I will get back to it. But years ago, when Dr. Chu and I were working together, and one of the hospitals that we were working in went smoke-free. Dr. Chu and I discussed it. And what came to the surface is that cigarettes, tobacco is an addiction. And it's extremely difficult to break. Why? It causes an imbalance. And most, if not all, smoke cessation programs do not reflect getting at the cause of that imbalance. And that's what I want you to focus on today. You are in charge. Temptation is real. Why is temptation real? Let's stay focused with our program. And you've heard me say this before. The infant is growing inside its mother. The mother is taking 100% care of that infant. Fetus, if you like. I don't want to get into that part of the discussion. If it is birthed around the 7th month, it will survive. It stays in that womb for an extra 2 months to grow bigger and stronger. So there's some kind of sensing mechanism, because if it's born, it will survive. Now, what that sensing mechanism is, I don't know, but it must be pretty darn comfortable in that womb because it is being 100% cared for. And for those women out there, you're the one who's providing that comfort. That entity cannot survive until you have agreed to do everything for it. Now, let's take that a step forward so that we can truly understand. And this is important. The mother takes 100% care, and that entity grows and develops. It's the 9th month. The mother goes to the birthing station, whether it be a hospital or at home, whatever. And that entity emerges. Now, in most situations, the mother is exhausted. She needs to take a nap. The baby is washed and wrapped and taken away. It's been through some kind of process as well, so it sleeps. A period of time later, the mother is awakened for whatever. The child is brought back. The mother and the child meet. Everything is good. And now what we're dealing with begins. The child begins to fuss. Fussing, from my point of view, says there's some kind of imbalance. I don't have to put a label on it. Fussing occurs because there's an imbalance. You have your idea, she has her idea, they have their ideas. Everybody has an idea as to what the fussing is about. In most situations, the mother takes a breast or a bottle and nourishes that baby. So within the first few hours of life, two words come together: comfort and food. They are inextricable. They cannot be taken apart. Every single one of you knows the power of food. And I'll bet that over 90% of you struggle with temptation at the same time as you make the decision to lose weight. So that temptation is there because it keeps you alive. You're tempted, you take food, comfort. And at the same time, you've made a decision that is going to make you uncomfortable. So we have to start out accepting one thing. I have temptation and I have weight loss. They're at counter purposes. Therefore, I have to agree, if I'm going to achieve my goal, that I'm going to have to deal with temptation, because temptation is going to arise. No question about it. There it is. I can't see your hands, but the question is, how many of you can withstand temptation despite the fact that it's at cross purposes? So therefore, the first issue, and think about it right now, the first issue is temptation is there. Weight loss is there. They're both on the table. They're both calling you. Temptation, weight loss. Temptation, weight loss. You're in charge of you. But we know the power of temptation. And we know how many times in your lifetime you've had this thought, but the issue of temptation pounds at you and pounds at you. Remember, It's not in your conscious mind. But how does it feel to be held close? And when you got that bottle or breast, you were held close. It was warm. It was comfortable. It was nourishing. It felt so good. And how many situations like that are you aware of? So the key is to understand the only reason we are having any discussion at all is because you have to recognize that if you want to lose weight, it's going to make you uncomfortable. And how long and in what way can you get by this level of discomfort without giving in? Recognize something else, and we've talked about it before. This anger in the infant is there. And that anger in the infant is there because it was put there for survival. That infant begins to cry. And that controls you. How long can you sit by? And how many terrible stories have you heard about the infant's anger controlling and upsetting the adult? And the reason is that infant has no other means of protecting itself. So the anger is there for survival. Well, we've also talked about that voice. And I've connected that voice for you to your child self. Now remember, the issue of child self has been explored already. We've agreed. You have never seen an adult truly having fun. And in the process of having fun, that adult, in all cases, and I mean fun, never occurred unless that adult was behaving as a child. And that child behaves the way it does because that's how it survives. That's how it controls. So we have two issues. One, the power of food and comfort. The issue of control. And this is the important thing, how it feels when you are fed, when food comes in. Think of so many activities, and whether it's a center or not, almost everything that we do, we go to the movies, either before the movies, before the pandemic, or after the movie, we go out. We're getting together. We have food. We're taking a trip. We stop to eat. Food is the center of everything. And is there anyone that you know who's an adult that doesn't realize that without food, they can't exist? So your very existence is built upon having food. So, back to my original point. Every single craving for food that you have has its origin in the imbalances that are going on in your body. And one of the reasons I focus on our program is because those first 2 weeks, detoxification, cleansing, are the key. And that's why they're so difficult. Because we're getting rid of the poisons and the toxins that have built up in our bodies. And the reason you want to do the program, and it's the core of everything, there may be other aspects to it, is your extra weight is impacting in some way on your life, and you're not happy about that. So the battle begins the day that you are born. Now, imbalance. In our modern society, with all of the processed foods and everything that's going on, it's no wonder, especially with speed, and everybody wants to get there first, to be there, because it takes time and whatever. That's why fast food places are so popular. It's a quickie, it gives you comfort, and in many of them, maybe all of them, I don't know, the food that you're given is not balanced. And that puts a load on your immune system, which is your gut. And so here we are back again. Temptation. Now, built in to temptation is, again, survival. We've talked about it in terms of the child. I want what I want when I want it. Now, what is that about? A child has no experience in the real world. It wants. Let's not try to interpret it. Let's accept the fact that it wants. Part of that wanting could be evolutionary, in the sense that as we evolve and temptation is there, it wants what it wants because that's how it learns to survive. So now we have another aspect to it. I want what I want when I want it has at its core, at its essence, survival. So we've got comfort, we've got survival, we've got learning, and we have that period that goes on within the first few hours of life. That when we are fed, it feels so good. And one of the things that it does, at least in my mind, is to offset the trauma of birth. Now, let me explain. This entity is inside its mother, between 1 second and the next, between 1 minute and the next, it emerges into the real world, going from 100% being taken care of to 0. Once it's outside the mother, it has no capacity for survival. And since in my mind there's this what I call sensing mechanism, because if we were birthed in the 7th month, it would survive. It realizes in some way that I can't explain. So the wanting, the temptation is connected with survival. I want what I want when I want it. And remember, in the child, the moment you give in to the wanting, it's over until it wants something else, or it wants more. And therefore, this conflict we have needs to be understood, because it's real and it's healthy. Without it, we would not survive. Not only that, if we take weight loss out of the equation, if it were not in existence, would food be a problem? Now, you can bring in words like health, etc., but we're dealing with health and those other kinds of things in the realm of a person being overweight. So the issue of food for us is, again, only an issue because we choose to do something to weigh less. Now, hear me. To do something to weigh less because of what? You made a decision. Now, we could get into trouble by having a whole discussion about the decision we made. And I've said to you, stop. You're an adult. Let's get away from justification. I, as the adult, wish to weigh less. I wish, as an adult, to go for a walk. I wish, as an adult, to take a drive in my car. I don't have to justify that. I'm an adult. I'm responsible for me. And I want to weigh less. I don't have to explain to you. I don't have to do anything. That's what I want. Now, the only reason I want to lose weight is because that's what I've decided. If I don't recognize the power of temptation, then I'm not going to achieve my goal. Temptation was put there as part of our learning experience. On the opposite side, it's a survival kind of thing. Why? If we constantly give in to temptation, let me ask you, if we constantly give in to temptation, what's going to happen? Therefore, I've got to pay attention to temptation. Also, remember I said to you, it seems in nature, every positive has a negative. All poisons seem to have antidotes. Whether we're aware of all of them at this point in time, no. But in the most of situations that occur, if this is a poison, we can do this to neutralize the poison. Now, the key for temptation, remember, it keeps us alive. But it's the child exploring. So the temptation is there because that's an aspect of our learning, of our becoming. But you and I are adults. We've had that experience and we can differentiate. And this is what we've discussed already as well. And what's that? I'm tempted and I'm aware of it. And I'm also aware of the fact that the power of that temptation is often at cross purposes with what my goal is. The key here then is to address it in a positive kind of way. So let's talk about the first way. You are tempted. Think of any situation where temptation is a part. And now let's think about this. We want to lose weight and temptation is there. Who and what and why it's there is irrelevant at this point. The only relevancy is I want, where it came from, what it's all about. And now we have to make a decision. Accept the fact that that temptation is real for you with not regard for anything else. I want it, and it's powerful. Over here, you're thinking it's going to interfere with my goal, which was to weigh less. The underlying pieces that I've shared with you so far, saying that this wanting in part has to do with the fact that there are imbalances within the body. And those imbalances are the same imbalances of not just I want, but the ones that cause disease and illness. You're not diseased and ill unless there's an imbalance inside your body. So, question number one, and ask it, which do I want more? Do I want this temptation? And you do. Do I want this temptation? Do I want to lose weight? Which one, and you're the adult, Which one do I want more? Now let's keep it easy for a minute. You're here, so I'm going to assume that you want to lose weight more than you want the temptation. Part two, you also know that the temptation is not going away. Whether it's now, 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, a day from now, that temptation is not going away. You also know that because that temptation is totally persistent, it will not go away. I want, maybe there's a quiet period in between. I want, but it will come back until it is satisfied. And you also know, based upon historical issues, that whether it's immediate or down the road, you're going to give in. And let's not talk about the fact that many of you are upset and disappointed in yourself and whatever. Just put that aside for now. You know you're going to give in. And therefore, if you're going to succeed, you must not be passive. You have to be proactive. Now, as a psychologist, I've learned that you have the answer. And when you find the answer, your behavior changes. Now, your behavior is to give in, and you want to change that behavior. Now, the first thing we know is that you give in. And one of the wonderful things about being an adult and capable of rationalizing and thinking is it wants give in. Those are connected. Therefore, we developed what I have called the magic protocol because it does exactly that. You're giving in, but you're not giving in the way that habit was formed. I want. Okay? Temptation. You want. Now, is it necessarily the food, or is it meeting that construct of I want? So the first thing you do is you give in a healthy manner by giving in with something that neutralizes the temptation. It's a behavior. That's all it is. And if we didn't want to lose weight, it's not an issue at all. So it's only an issue because we want something that's in conflict with this temptation. And the more I do it, when I do it again and again and again and again, I'm creating a new pathway for myself, a new habit. And that's what's so terrific. The key then is understanding that all of these pieces that we've been putting together are directed at creating a lifestyle that more appropriately fits what makes you like getting up in the morning, with a you that is happy getting up in the morning, because these pieces of yourself are melding together in some new entity that likes being what it is. And I've said to you many times, and you're all aware of it, when you get up in the morning, if you're happy with yourself, your outlook on the day is positive. When you get up in the morning and you're not happy with yourself, you will try different kinds of things to create an atmosphere that you will be happier with yourself, but you're dealing with symptoms. You're not dealing with the cause. And the cause is the imbalance. So that if we rebalance, then temptation is not an issue. We're focusing on weight loss. It applies to almost everything in our lives. But it's the same imbalance issue that is the key. So what am I saying? Let's recognize when we're being honest with ourselves when it comes to temptation. Temptation is not bad. It has to do with the circumstance. Temptation is there because when looked at in different ways, it's a learning experience. And if you didn't have that learning experience, it would not be a positive kind of thing as you move forward. Therefore, how do you meet that temptation in a manner that makes you feel good about it? And that's by being transparent with yourself, being honest with yourself. I want to go to some questions now. Oh, I was looking for my glasses. I wrote them down. Here we go. I'm relying on chewing gum to stop me from cheating. I saw that I'm limited to 6 pieces per day, but I've been chewing close to a pack a day. Is this slowing down my weight loss? Interesting question. As far as physiology is concerned, the answer to that question is something I can't fully answer. Maybe it's slowing down your weight loss. Maybe it's not. The one thing I do know is too much of a good thing is too much. And it's built into the statement itself. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So therefore, the issue that we have to look at is, what is it that you are requiring more? Now, here is where your consultation is very important. One of the things that you and I know is that we can live for weeks without food. We can only live for days without water. Putting something in your mouth and chewing on it gives you the illusion of giving yourself something. And we also know that chewing and activities like shaking out, of jumping up and down, all of those kinds of activities give you something to lower the stress, the anxiety, the pressure that you're feeling. So it could be dehydration, it could be depression, it could be anger, it could be anxiety, it could be stress. The answer is that you have to have more than 6 pieces. Make sure it's within our guidelines for sugar and calories. And the odds are it will not have a major impact. The problem is not to get caught up in the process of constantly giving in. Next question. I'm not sure what my goal weight should be. How should I decide? Well, I'm going to start with guys first. With a guy, and I've heard many, many explanations by physicians, and the best one that I've heard is a man should take his height, and let's say he is 6 foot tall. 6 foot tall is 72 inches. Take those 72 inches and cut them in half. That's 36. And his weight should be about a waist size of 36. Very simple. Take your height if you're a guy, cut the height in half, divide by 2, 72 inches, 36 inches, waist size 72, 36. With a woman, and I treat women differently because women's bodies contain more fat than men's bodies. It's nature. So what I say to a woman is, I want you to pick a clothing size. I don't care what the clothing size is. You have to feel good about that clothing size. When you reach that clothing size, what I want you to do is decide whether you're going a week or 2 points more on the program so that the clothing size, which most women are eager to focus on, will give you the answer, and that's you go to phase 2. Both are simple, both are clear, both are easy, and if you recognize the logic of it, it's going to be there. The biggest problem we have with the issue of losing weight is that we will not accept the discomfort it calls us, because the moment we commit to weight loss, we're committing to being uncomfortable, because almost none of us are comfortable with the inevitable. What's the inevitable? Change. Nothing is ever the same. Why do we practice? To get better and better and better and better. But it can't be the same. 5 years from now, can I physically do what I'm doing today? No. So if I'm going to achieve something, I have to make accommodations or changes. I don't know what's around the corner, so I'm uncomfortable because my mind plays games with me and I think of things based upon life experience. The key here is to understand the more you take charge in a rational kind of way, the more comfortable you're going to be. And yes, I come back time and time and time again to making me the most important person in my life. I didn't say I'm the most important person. For me, I'm the most important person for me. And when I am the me that I like, when I recognize I'm doing the kinds of things that make me feel good about me, and I heard someone out there saying, well, what about the evil inclination? The evil inclination is going to be there all the time. You think I don't know when I'm duping myself and when I'm saying something that's not valid? When I truly like me, it alters my behavior towards you. How? Very simply. If I need to act towards you in some unethical manner, I'm aware of it. If I feel good when I act unethically, I'm aware of it. But psychically, I can't care about myself. I can't be happy with myself. And that's why sociopathy is a disease. A sociopath has found a way of knowing that it's wrong and rationalizing it in a manner that it doesn't make a difference. When we're in tune, I'm going to act towards you in a more positive kind of way because I need to be happy with me. And if you won't let me behave towards you in a more positive manner, I'm going to recognize it. And that's going to make me feel good as well. And the reason it's going to make me feel good is because I was conscious of what it is that I was doing. And I realized there's an imbalance in you. Because if you were balanced, you would want the same thing. Because remember, I'm going back again to my thesis that all cravings are based upon exactly the same thing. That all illness and disease is based on, and that's imbalances. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you soon. And any questions or comments will be gladly accept it, and any question that you ask me will be responded to as best I can. Thanks for giving me your time. Take care.